А qual litro алкоголь?
Получается,
Vicdanı Kazvik. Vicdanı.
Hello. Вырос опять?
Да, 90.
А шалик вырос?
Вырос,
Не, обувь это.
Спула. So we're going to be looking at Slander today. Sad boy, future bass, you know, crying and having a good time. They go hand in hand. So here I have my project file. What you're going to want to do first is set that tempo to a nice 150 BPM. So the very first thing I did in this project was lay down some nice emotional piano chords. A lot of his songs are based around 4 really emotional piano chords or just chords in general. So you can see here I've lowered the velocity slightly. That's just to give it a softer hit than a really hard aggressive punching sound. Another thing that I did with my piano chords is I have this melody layer on top of them. So this is just playing sort of a nice little emotional melody, giving the song a bit of character from the start, and I'm going to use this piano melody a bit later on as well. Now I wanted to talk a little bit about the post-processing side I have on this piano. What I'm running on this piano is this new awesome plugin from Cymatics. It's called Space Light, and it is their cool new reverb plugin. This plugin is so good for adding a little bit more sauce to your instruments. I'm running the concert hall preset on my piano, and I think I've just tinkered with a bit of the decay and the size just to fit the mix of my song a bit better. But if we go through these presets, I'll sort of demonstrate what this reverb can do to your sound. So you can hear from just those presets alone that this reverb can actually add a lot of character and just sort of alter the sound completely to give you something really new and unique. So this is a light version, so that means this is free, and it's crazy how many features you get this free reverb. I mean, if you haven't downloaded it yet, go and download it, boys. It'll change your life. So some more elements that I added for the introduction. I just have this impact and this exhaust. Another thing I added is the sort of percussion hits. I'm using a tambourine and just some random other like clicks and hits sort of things. And now you'll hear that, if you're wearing headphones especially, you'll hear that that is panning side to side. What I've got on the post-processing is this Panomatic, and you can see that's moving left to right there. That's a nice little bit of ear candy, a nice little sprinkle of the spices, and pouring a bit of sauce on it. I also have this ambient sample. I mean, I think I do this in every single song. It's just an easy way to just add a little bit of ambience. So the last thing I added in this sort of opening intro part is just this section of my vocals, teasing a bit of vocals in the intro before we actually get into some real vocals in the verse. So we transition into the verse with just a sort of crash transition into our impacts again. So I have an a cappella here, so you can see this is from Kaiwachi and Dylan Matthew, the song Run. Basically, if you want to make a song that sounds like Slander, throw a Dylan Matthew a cappella in there. I mean, he is the ultimate sad boy future bass vocalist.
Think I'm falling off again. Tell me, where did my mind go? Is it stuck within the mess?
In this first section of the verse, I have the piano playing. The only other thing other than vocals and the piano for this first part is this nice little pluck up. So this is just a nice little serum preset that I found. So you can hear that sort of just a sine, and then I have this kilohertz distortion on there. It's actually a sine wave distortion. So this ARP gradually opens up as the verse goes along. I have an EQ filter just cutting the highs and gradually opening up. As this verse moves along, we sort of start to move into a drum section. What I'm doing with my drums here is just filtering them in with an EQ filter, starting cutting off all the highs and just opening up. So once we finally hit this drum section, we obviously have the drums open. We bring back our percussions from the intro. Also, I add a simple little bass line. And that moves us from the verse to the build-up. So for the start of this build-up, we go quiet, we cut a lot of things. I have my vocal.
Kiss me like you want to. Please just one last time.
Of course, I have my impacts and a little sub drop there. So I have these stabby chords in there, and they are low pass, cutting the high, and they will gradually open up as the build up progresses to let those high frequencies go through. These chords are super easy. It's just saw waves, a little bit of detune, 5 voices, 7 voices, whatever you like. Some distortion, some chorus, and some compression. And then I'm just making the MIDI hit in a stabbing motion or sound. I don't know. As we go into the second part of this build up, I've just used a couple of Cymatics build up drums here. I got lazy, sue me. I bring back my bass, I bring back my pluck up, and I have some beefy rises in there also. One other thing I do is bring in the vocal chops that will be in my drop, just filtering in nice and sort of chill and easy. Okay, so I think the best place to start for a Slander drop is to get the chord stack out of the way. That's the first place I started when I started making this drop, was to get a nice sounding chord stack, because it's very important when you're trying to make future bass like Slander. So my chord stack consists of 5 layers. It's just following the same chord progression that we use for the piano chords. So I think for people who are trying to make good chord stacks, The idea is to make it sound as big as possible. Now, I obviously have 5 layers. It's like a puzzle. Like, you want your chord layers to fit together in a puzzle to create a completed puzzle. Just go through and find some big lead presets or big super saw presets, just wherever you can find them. Just get a bunch of sounds. What I like to do with my chord stacks is have 2 high layers that are an octave higher of all the other ones, and then I just whack a stereo enhancer on, widen them up so the highs of your chord stack are really wide. I think that helps to make them feel a lot more full. The next important step of your chord stack is a bass stack. Basically, it is the same concept as the chords. You just want to intertwine a few different bass sounds and fit them together to give you a nice full bass sound. So the next step for me in this drop was adding some vocal chops. The vocal drops in this drop are just sort of adding a little bit more character to my chord stack. So now with this drop arrangement, I went for quite a standard drum beat. I have hi-hats going the whole way. And then another hi-hat loop to just add a little bit of ear candy sauce out the side. I also have these toms in here. They're just acting as a fill. Now I'll walk through what I've done with the chord stack and the vocal chops. So I've taken the chords, the bass and the sub, and I have all routed to this LFO channel here. And what I have on this is the LFO tool from Xfer. I'm actually automating the rate of the LFO tool so I can change the speed of how fast the chords sort of pulse up and down. You can see here I've got 1/4, 1/8, 1/4, etc, etc. Also, their vocal chops are routed to this LFO channel as well, so they'll be following the same sort of up and down volume rhythm as the chords and the bass. I also have a reverb after the LFO tool, so this reverb isn't affected by the LFO, so it doesn't pulse up and down, but what it does do is gives me the opportunity to add some tail, some reverb tails to the chords and the bass and the vocal chops. So what I'm doing every time we have a stop, you'll see I have automated a bit more reverb decay onto the LFO bus as a whole. So that allows me to fill that space with a bit of a reverb tail and then cut it off as soon as they hit again so it doesn't get all messy. In the second half of the drop, I add back my piano melody. I have a phrase from the a cappella in there as well.
It'll be the last time.
So yeah, that's basically everything that goes into making an emotional future bass track like Slander. I hope my emotional future bass track makes you really emotional. So yeah, let's listen to the final result and maybe even shed a tear or 10.
Think I'm falling off again. Tell me, where did my mind go? Is it stuck within the mess? Did I do this on my own? You and I, we walk the thin line. We go apart at the same time. Probably should've called it at the stop sign.